Oops. Interesting thing about the internet. I was just talking to this devotee. This has nothing to do with the conversation. I was talking to Pranava today, and he's doing very well. Yeah, yeah. We spent 2 hours together, and he's really coherent and really doing well. So he was telling me after his stroke and everything, like he's able to experience all these different electromagnetic vibrations around, and it's actually painful. And I've had conversations with other people who've had accidents or brain injury, and they say the same thing. That all this radiation is around us, and we're not aware of it. I don't experience it, but many people more sensitive experience it, so we don't know how it's affecting us. Of course, that's not. Anyway, that just came to mind when I turned my phone on. So, anyway, Guya Makyati Prichati. So, it's interesting. The word priti is used here. Prichati. Loving exchanges. Priti Lakshanam. So it says, the last part of the verse says, these are the symptoms of loving exchange. So, let's try to analyze what it means by loving exchange, because sometimes you can see people giving gifts or accepting gifts or giving food or accepting food not in loving mood. See, sometimes people misunderstand this verse and they say, well, if you just give prasadam, or just accept prasadam, or just give a gift, or just accept a gift, that's what this verse refers to. No, there's two things. There's the gift, which is just the symptom of the loving relationship. So we're going to try to analyze the word love, which is ideal for a sannyasi to analyze, but anyway. 30 years ago, actually it took sannyas 41 years ago, if I was to use the word love, I'd probably be thrown out of the sannyas ashram. But we're not here referring to just like, romantic love. We're referring to actual love between people. Or not only between human beings, but between living entities. Loving other entities that have a soul, which includes, animals, plants, and everything like that. Like you find the famous Christian St. Francis talking about how all the different animals and everything were brothers and sisters. So, anyway, so what does it mean, this word love or loving exchanges between people? There's one extreme that one can go into, which is what we call codependency, where you feel that it's just your duty to fulfill the other person's needs. And is that love? Or there's the other extreme where we just say, take care of yourself, I don't care about you. So you got these two opposite extremes, right? One is where you just say, it's my business. So neither one of those is love. Of course, obviously, the extreme of telling people to go to HELL is not. It's not love. But also being codependent is not love, because for a variety of reasons. First of all, it disempowers the person. So really, to understand how to love someone, you have to understand in Krishna consciousness what's the best thing for them. That's the first point. And secondly, you have to help them become stable even in this material life, because in order to be Krishna conscious, material stability is necessary. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions several times in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita and other literatures how someone's material needs are essential to be fulfilled. It's essential to fulfill someone's material needs if they're going to be stable and steady in bhakti long term. So means being concerned and helping facilitate, not that your duty is, like in the other hand, that's codependency. Your duty is to actually fulfill everyone's material needs, and that destroys your needs too. But to help people understand, help yourself, first of all, understand your needs, and to help others understand their needs. And this is very much in line with one Western psychologist, which some of you may know about psychology. His name is Maslow. Mm. And he came up with this hierarchy of needs. And hierarchy of needs, he had like a triangle there. And of course, the beginning, we all have needs for light, food, air, recreation, friendship, love, autonomy. That's the problem with being codependent, is you don't fulfill your need of autonomy. You have a need for, obviously, for, I said recreation, that means fun. Then ultimately, self-realization, which he called self-actualization, which we call Krishna consciousness. So all these are needs of the soul, at least with the soul is when the soul is in the material world. Obviously, if you're in the spiritual world, you probably don't think too much about air or anything like that because you don't have a material body. But while you're functioning in this world, you have all these basic needs. So oftentimes, we find spiritualists or aspiring or neophyte spiritualists who may decry the need for these particular, what they consider lower needs. I don't even like to use the word lower needs, but basic needs. Let's use the word basic. They'll criticize and say, oh, you're spiritual, you should be like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who, let's say Raghunath Das Goswami, he would eat a little buttermilk, which is called chach in India. He would eat buttermilk once every 2 or 3 days. And he would sleep like, sometimes forgetting to sleep at night, so you're a Hare Krishna devotee. And so we found in the beginning days of the movement that devotees actually, many of them had this mentality of decrying or denying their basic human needs. The need for sleep particularly. That's why people used to fall asleep during all hours of the day and night, including Bhagavatam class, driving a car, and even eating prasadam. I saw a devotee one time was eating prasadam, and his face fell on the prasadam. That's how tired he was. I said, I think you need more sleep. So basically, yes, to help people progress, we're talking about love and empathy. If you really love someone, you want to do what's best for them and for yourself. Actually, love. Just to go back a little bit, if you want to be able to love anybody or help someone, you got to love yourself first. Which, if you talk in spiritual circles about loving yourself, they'll think you're an egotist. So the first point is to love yourself, because Krishna loves you. Not that you go around saying, I'm the best, I'm fantastic, look at me. I mean, that's not productive of Krishna consciousness. But Krishna loves you. And you're a spirit soul. So you're supposed to love all spirit souls. Why not start with yourself? And be concerned with your own feelings and needs, or your own needs. Let's just start with needs right now. We'll get to feelings in a second. Concerned with your own needs, and try to understand them and try to make strategies to fulfill your own needs so you can be stable in spiritual life. We want to be stable. I mean, let's give a practical example that Prabhupada gives in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he talks about the Gajendra Mokshana story. And any of you want to stop me at any point if you don't understand what I'm saying, because I do have a tendency to go too fast when I start to speed up. So the Gajendra Mokshana story is the story of Gajendra the elephant, who was fighting a crocodile. And he was in the water, the crocodile was in the water, and because they were both in the water, the crocodile was winning because the crocodile is an animal of the water. Prabhupada used that story to illustrate the point that people have to be ready to execute Krishna consciousness, which Prabhupada called fighting Maya, but let's paraphrase that. Execute Krishna consciousness from a favorable condition or in a favorable condition. Prabhupada there was referring to the ashrams, like brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, so that they can remain stable in Krishna consciousness and fight the illusory energy or become Krishna conscious. So broadening that particular example or metaphor the Prabhupada was using, I would say that one has to be aware of one's basic needs, not only in terms of ashram, that is, whether a brahmachari, whatever you are, but also in terms of how much facility you need in this world in order to just be stable and to be Krishna conscious for your whole lifetime. And so that means how much sleep you need, how much food, what type of food you need, what type of association you need, what type of recreation, fun. That's also a dirty word, fun. People, spiritualists are not supposed to have fun, right? They're supposed to just like work. Until, work now, samadhi later. You've heard that before. So, but fun, how much fun do you need? How much recreation do you need? And so oftentimes before we found devotees criticized for going out and just playing a game of volleyball or something. Let's keep cricket. But anyway, that's an inside joke between us. So, because too much cricket's not a good thing. So yeah, we have all these basic. So the whole point to be stable and steady in devotional service is to help ourselves identify these basic needs. And if we can identify the needs, then we can be stable year after year. And like I've been in Krishna consciousness now almost 50 years, and I think I attribute a lot of that, of course, all Prabhupada's mercy, but a lot of that to my being, let's say, responsible for my own needs. Knowing how much rest I need at night, knowing what type of food I need, knowing what type of association I need, knowing what, I need to have some humor, I need to have some, all these different things, enough air. I mean, for example, I don't think I could live in Calcutta. No air there. So anyway, identifying these things and, let's say, having an appropriate standard of renunciation according to the needs you have. And therefore, I haven't had any trouble in Krishna consciousness through the last, 50 years, because I've identified those particular needs. And even though people may criticize me for, let's say, being aware or fighting for my needs, I'm still here. Because you do get criticized, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you're sleeping too much, you just have to eat what's given to you, even though it may kill you, give you diabetes and heart disease and all those other nice things. So, people criticize, but I'm still here. So the first point in love and empathy is self-love. And that includes the body. Just take care of your needs, be stable, be steady, and then once you've actually taken care of your own needs, you can help people understand their needs. And how do you help people understand their needs? This involves, what I've been teaching, is that you don't tell people what their needs are. You don't see, otherwise, Hare Krishna. Certainly you don't tell people that they are needy. That's probably one of the worst things you can tell people. Come in. And I'll take questions about all these things, because a lot of this is new, but I'm trying to present it in a particular context. So, how do you identify your needs, and how do you identify the needs of others, is the question. Or how do you facilitate people in understanding their needs? And the best way that I found to identify needs is by feelings. We all have feelings, right? Most of us have feelings.
Yeah.
Does everyone agree? No, you don't. Okay, you don't have feelings. Okay, some of us don't have feelings because feelings are Maya. And you're not supposed to have feelings. Actually, one time in the early days, I was a brahmachari speaking to a sannyasi, and I said something like, can I reveal my mind to you? I have feelings. And the person said, no. feelings are Maya, your mind, I don't want to hear what's in your mind. Anyway, so this is the old days, So we all have feelings. So the point is, and this comes from Maslow's teaching, and also this is there in the Vedic literatures too, that everything we feel, we may feel happy or sad. Of course, there's millions of different feelings you can have. Depressed, angry, happy, sad, and I'm not going to go through the whole list. There's a big list in the book there. So every single feeling that we have comes from needs that are met or unmet. In fact, every action that we have or that we make is coming from needs or met or unmet. The strategies that we have to fulfill needs. Does that make sense to everybody? I just want to double check.
Yes.
Okay? Just like, I'm talking to you all about empathic communication in my book and everything. So what need am I trying to fulfill? I have a need to be compassionate to others. I need to help others understand themselves. I've done a lot of things because that's one of my basic needs. Everybody has those needs. I also teach about health and other things. I have courses about health that I've done because I have a need to help people. And we all have that need. So that's why I'm here. So I identified that's the need. Why am I pursuing Krishna consciousness? Well, several different needs. I have a need to understand the Absolute. I have a need to connect with Krishna. I have a need to please Srila Prabhupada. So everything I do and everything everybody does is due to attempts to fulfill needs. Now, strategies may be good or bad. I may have a need for, let's say, food, and my strategy is to yell at Somi Rupa. That's a bad strategy. I said, "Where's the food?" Because she's not going to want to do it cook for me, like she does when I come here. So strategies are different than needs. Needs are not desires, because we can have so many desires. For example, I'll give you one desire I have that's not Krishna conscious. When I see a fancy car in the street, I desire it. Like if I see a Maserati, you know what Maserati is? Maserati or some car. Of course, I could never afford something like that. Plus, I'd probably get kicked out of the movement if I had a Maserati. But so that's not a need. That's simply a desire. Desires come and go. The Bhagavad Gita says, like the rivers enter into the ocean, and the ocean always remains filled. But let's say if I see a Maserati, what is the need? That I have a feeling I want it. That's a strategy. But anyway, the need might be for transportation. So instead I just get a Yugo. You know what a Yugo is? No. He knows what a Yugo is. Yugo is about the cheapest car you can find. Yugoslavia. Yugo is such a cheap car that in order to use it, you stick your feet underneath the board and you have to walk the car.
Like Flintstone, huh?
Yeah, like the Flintstones. Yeah. Like the Flintstones. So I may have a need, to go somewhere to communicate with people. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that needs and desires are different. And strategies are different than needs. We may have so many desires, but these aren't needs. So we should connect every time we have a feeling or we make some strategy, we connect that with the basic need. So that's with ourselves. And so let's say we want to help someone else. How do you do that? Let's say someone is exhibiting the signs of depression. They're just like crying all the time. So what do? You go up to the person and say, "Don't cry, everything will be all right." No, it doesn't work. Do you go up to the person and say, "You're in Maya"? Krishna says, "Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead." You know, we can use the philosophy to beat up people, which we do quite often. You know, so you're not the body. You know, going to a hospital, someone's in pain. You're not the body. Prabhu, you know, why are you suffering the pain? So this is not empathy. This is not help either. So the way we can help people is to try to understand their basic need that they're expressing and not tell them what their basic need is, but to actually try to help them facilitate understanding how to fulfill their needs. Like if someone is crying, then I'll see, you know, they're unhappy. I won't say you are unhappy, because that's kind of disempowering, because it may make the person, and the person will say, yes, I'm unhappy, but now I'm angry too, and you know. So try to understand it. This is empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. Let me just make that very clear. Sympathy is about you. When you're saying, you know, I feel bad that you're sad, that's sympathy. But empathy is trying to understand them, what their feelings are, and you don't even have to use words. You know, it can be done, you know, most communication in any case is done through body language and tone of voice. There's studies on communication that I think verbal, you know, the words are something like 6 or 8% of communication, and the rest of communication is body language and tone of voice. That's why there's so many problems on the internet. You ever go on the internet, you see all these discussions, it devolves into you know, a fight after a while. Because, you know, I've seen that. It's just crazy. People start, there's this thing called ad hominem attacks, which means personal attacks. People start on a philosophical platform, and then they get to the point of, you know, you rascal, you're horrible, you're a monster, you know. And it's all there because this communication is lacking on the with just words. Communication should be body language and tone of voice and words.
It's actually worse, you know, internet and in real life. It becomes really horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's really when you're just like getting into words. So in other words, basically, you try to help someone understand their basic needs. And sometimes you may use words. Sometimes you may say, you know, do you have a need for comfort? You know, sometimes people will be crying because they're communicating something. Every time someone does something, not only are they doing it to fulfill a need, but if they're communicating it to you, they want you to understand their basic need. Because one of the basic needs we have is for people to understand us. I mean, that's why we go to psychiatrists. I don't go. Or psychologists. Because we spend so much money, in America at least, I don't know about here. People spend so much money for someone to listen to them because their wife or husband wouldn't listen to them. And usually the psychologist is just sitting around listening. Yes, yes, yes. And you just spend like 300 euros to get heard for an hour.
And then they don't say, how can I help you?
Well, no, a good psychologist will just listen.
Yeah.
Will just listen, and he's not going to tell you what to do. But anyway, that's a different subject matter. But we need actually people to understand us. It's a big human need. That's why we have these loving exchanges. The dati pratigranati guya makyati prichati. It's so we're understood and be understood and to understand others. Really important. Really important, you know, friendship, loving exchanges. I mean, how many people do we have in this world who actually understand us? Who are interested in us? I mean, I think that's quite rare, isn't it? I mean, isn't it? I mean, who actually want to understand us, who care about us.
Yeah, people are lonely.
Yeah, people are lonely, especially nowadays with the internet. People are, except in the UK, they go to the pub. And when they drink, they really start speaking. Also here in Sweden, when I used to travel in Sweden, between Sweden and Finland, I'd take the boat. I don't do that anymore. People get drunk on the boat, and they start talking like anything, you know. One time I was on the boat to Finland, and some man, Swedish man who was normally very quiet, he took me as his psychologist, and he sat on my lap because he was drunk. Anyway, but we do have that need to be understood and to understand others. And so really, if we take the time to hear others, try to understand others, that's empathy. Not to tell others. Empathy is not advising, telling people what they need to do, solving the problems. You can't solve people. People have to solve their own problems. And so that's loving exchange right there. So that's the first point. And helping people understand or facilitating people. I mean, it's like in my position as spiritual master, I take my position as facilitating people in their Krishna consciousness, not bossing them around and telling them what to do. You understand? Facilitation. And that's what a good therapist should be. So that's the first point. And then another aspect of what's talked about in the book is understanding certain blocks in communication. Understanding types of conversation or types of interaction that block empathy. And one of them is a really important one that we do all the time in Krishna consciousness. It's called diagnosis. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Diagnosis means you actually label someone. Like, we often do that when we meet someone for the first time. We say, you know, she or he is lazy, they're nonsense.
You mean you judge them?
Judge them, yeah. It's judging. You put a label, a static label on them, not an ecstatic label. But the point is, as human beings, we are dynamic. We're not static. You know, sometimes we act one way, sometimes we act another way. So, but once you put a static label on, you see them as that, like that. And in religions, not only Krishna consciousness, we have millions of static labels for people. If you think about it, as part of my seminar, we go through this whole flip chart where we actually ask people what sort of static labels they have for people who are not devotees. Why don't we try that? Now we don't have a flip chart. Can anyone think of a label that we have for people who are not members of the Krishna consciousness movement?
Drunk.
Doctor.
What?
Drunk.
Drunk.
A doctor, police.
No, labels. Static labels.
Karmi means
Karmi.
it implies
Karmi. There's more. There's a lot. There's tons more. Demon. Think about it. I mean, there's actually, I come up with 3 or 4 big pages on a flip chart of all the.
Fat.
Yeah, well, that we can use for everybody, but demon, rakshasa, malecha, dog, stupid, yeah, and all these what we call pejorative, negative appellations or words for people, and then guess what? We can't connect with them anymore. As soon as I see you in terms, of course. In the Vedas, these are called upadhis, designations.
It's all negative.
There's a Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion. He has this verse, Sarvapadi Vinirvuktam, not Tata Paratranena Nirmalam, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktaruchute. That he says that we have to go beyond these upadhis, designations, and see everyone as a servant of Krishna. So we generally label people, and there's, the men, women, and puffed up, even in Krishna consciousness, puffed up. It's so, and we tend to look at each other as these labels, and then we can't connect anymore. Like that, sannyasi, man, woman, and brahmachari, so many. And we understand we have certain designations within society, and that helps society remain regulated. But we have to see beyond the labels, behind these designations. What we call, in the seminar, I call it a diagnosis. We diagnose people. So we give people these diagnoses. So to me, that's the main block that I see in the Krishna consciousness amongst devotees, amongst religious people, amongst people in general. You see people the color of the skin. You label them, black or white. Actually, it was interesting. I was just reading the Gopal Champu by Srila Jiva Goswami. This has nothing to do with the seminar, but it just popped into my mind. And Krishna and Balaram went to the ashram of Sandapani Muni, to take their Gurukul training.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to reveal that they were Krishna and Balaram. And Balaram says, I'm the white, he's the black. Because the reason they wanted to keep it secret, because they didn't want Jarasandha to understand that they had left Mathura. Because Jarasandha would have attacked Mathura at that particular time, because they had just killed Kamsa. And because they had killed Kamsa, then, Jarasandha was going to attack. Anyway, so that's not part of the seminar, but it's a funny story.
Maharaj, I don't want to,
No, just interrupt me if you want.
but to stuck, like you said, how we judge, label people from
Yeah.
outside. Now I forgot the detail, but sometimes, I don't know, it's an article or someone on a clip, on YouTube. It's people outside, they're not devotees, they are
Yeah.
outside, but they may have quite high realization.
Yeah.
Even if they are not Krishna conscious,
Mm-hmm.
their realization give me inspiration sometimes,
Mhm.
like they would say. And when I look at people on the road, it's maybe him, maybe her. We don't know in their internal
Mm.
life.
Good point.
Even if sometimes some people, they are not vegetarian. We are so strong on that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a strong conditionment. They are not vegetarian, but they have quite many realizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that, okay, it's coming, because for me it's still part, it has to be part of it, to be vegetarian, let's say, to become a spiritualist. But we can see it's a conditionment or whatever, but it's coming, maybe it's tomorrow that the person would become a vegetarian, but has different realization
That's good.
in many other ways.
That's good, because we tend to just meat eater. You
Yeah.
just see them as meat eater, but you just see them as a person. They're all devotees of Krishna, and they're looking for Krishna. They just know where to look.
Mm, mm.
It's like that story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where there was a astrologer and there was a man who was very poor. Some of you may know this story. And the astrologer says, "Your father left you a lot of money." But does anyone remember that story? He said, "Your father left you a lot." This is from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This is and your father left you a lot of money. You just don't know where to dig for it. You have to dig on the eastern side. So actually, everyone is looking for Krishna. Everyone has that need to connect to Krishna. But they're just looking in the wrong place.
George Harrison says that in the beginning of the Krishna book.
Oh, yes.
That
Yeah.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah, that's very good.
I was also thinking that it's so important that the devotees don't label people badly or label them like
Yeah.
this, because they will never connect with them otherwise.
Yeah.
It's important to know that.
That is the main problem spiritualists have. I mean, not only Krishna consciousness, but if you take any religion in the world, big religion, you take Muslim religion, kafirs, infidels, and things like that, Christian religion, and I was brought up in the Jewish religion, and everybody who wasn't Jewish was, anyone know, and it was called a goyim. You don't know what that means. That means like, they're not the chosen people.
Oh.
It says, huh?
I was thinking of something that Prabhupada said sometimes. He said, devotee means non-envious.
Yeah, non-envious.
Non-envious. Is it our envy which enables us to judge or label people like that? Or,
Hmm. That's it. That's very good. Yeah, it's exactly that, because we're trying to establish ourselves as superior to the person. That may be our motivation. That's envy right there, and envy is a big thing. Now that you brought up envy, it's an interesting topic because we do experience envy from time to time. So, as I mentioned before, thank you for bringing up the word envy, because I was going to change the subject a little bit. But envy, like any let's say feeling, strategy, whatever, can be connected with a need. Why would someone be envious of someone else? I mean, let me ask you all that to give you a little test. What need would that be?
Because they desire something that they have or something.
No, but that's not a need. What need would it be if you experience envy?
You're feeling alone and
Yeah, it might be a need for love, need for appreciation. Because we do have a need for appreciation. That's a big thing. I mean, how many times have people appreciated? I'm not talking about praising. How many times have people appreciated us, or me or you, whatever, for something we did for them? It's different than praise. You know, praise is like when you tell someone, "Hey, you're great, you're wonderful, you're fantastic." But let me just finish with that, and I'll take the question. But appreciation is something like going through this process that I mentioned in the book, was that what you did, what feeling I had, and what needed fulfilled. Like if I say to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'll give you an example of appreciation for Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you publish these books, and I feel just so happy and grateful because you connected me with Krishna. Now that's an appreciation, right there, because I explained like how I feel, what he did, what need was fulfilled.
or somebody comes new to Krishna consciousness, do the devotional service, and you come and say, "Oh, how nice you made this."
Yeah, well,
Or
it's more than that. It's actually, wow, I'm so happy
yeah,
that you made this garland, and all the colors are matching, and whatever.
and Krishna will love it.
I could never make a matching garland. But anyway, so and you made this garland, wow, and wow. You just have to express your emotion. You express your emotion and need because it really helps you connect to Krishna. And that's the need. Helps us connect to Krishna. So if you go through that whole process, it's a very powerful appreciation of someone. And we actually hanker for that appreciation.
But if you do devotional service and nobody says thank you or anything,
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
then the person go away.
It's very painful, actually. I remember one year, I was the GBC chairman for the whole year. It was a difficult year. That year I had like health challenges and everything like that. And after the year was over, okay, you're not the chairman, someone else, we change chairmanship every year. I don't, huh? I almost died this year. That's when I had problems with high blood pressure and everything that year. And that's when I changed my diet, changed everything. But anyway, I just felt, what am I doing here? So I had a need for appreciation. I mean, we all have that need. And if you read the book, I give many examples. Prabhupada gave that sort of appreciation to devotees. There's one example where Prabhupada wrote to someone who had done Rath Yatra, "I'm very happy, ecstatic, basically, to hear that you have done this Rath Yatra." And, and Prabhupada expressed that, this is, Rath Yatra is very dear to me. That was like a need right there. And then Prabhupada made a request, please go on and increasing year after year to increasing the Rath Yatra. So it's a very powerful thing. But if Prabhupada
He wasn't afraid to feel.
No, Prabhupada was very...
I remember, sorry, Jude.
Yeah, that's okay. No, go ahead.
I remember the other day I was listening to Baba, I think it was on YouTube or something like
Mm.
that. Or maybe it wasn't, I don't know. But he was crying.
Hmm.
And he was trying to show his appreciation for all the young people who were
Mm.
coming and helping him.
Mm.
You know that one?
Yeah,
Prabhupada just crying so emotionally he could hardly speak.
yeah, he was choked up.
And you just said, I have so much to thank you for helping me with this mission in Krishna consciousness.
Phew. It was powerful.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, Prabhupada was very vulnerable with his emotions.
Mm.
That's part of being open and empathic. That
That
it,
was showing appreciation really from the heart.
yeah, it's from the heart. But if Prabhupada generally didn't praise, because that's not appreciation. Praise would be, you're great. You never hear Prabhupada say something like, you're great. He would notice what the person would say or do. Then he would express his emotions, and then he would encourage them, like that. And it was very powerful. You had a question?
No question, Maharaj. I was just, like you said, envy, the reason can be the need for appreciation.
Yeah, not always. There's other needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not always. I also feel that sometimes the envy only comes why the other person enjoying better more than you.
Why is it what?
Other person is enjoying more than you, or in
Ah.
a better way. The thing is that you want to enjoy also.
So why? So the point is, yes, you want to enjoy. So you have a need to be happy. You have a need to enjoy. That's fine. So then you take, this involves another point. Then you take responsibility for increasing your enjoyment. And then you can understand the envy is actually interfering with your enjoyment. This is what I would do. If I felt envious towards someone, I would think, this is not helping me be happy. So I have to take responsibility. See, that's another block in communication that I was going to get to. And that block in communication is a denial of responsibility for one's own. We blame others. Because ultimately, in that particular context, if you're feeling envious of someone, you're actually blaming others for your own lack of happiness instead of taking responsibility. Now, there's a healthy way to feel envy. It's called competition, which Prabhupada encouraged. So it's not, we can notice what other people are doing, and we can want to do the same or be as good as them. That's very good. And Prabhupada actually, he encouraged, like with book distribution and preaching and other things like that, to be competitive with each other. That's a healthy thing.
Because then I want to please Krishna more than you.
Yeah, I want to be in competition. Without competition, what's challenges? Without challenges, what's the use of life? So, there's a fine line between envy and then just a competitive spirit. So, whatever feeling we have, the point I'm making is connected to a need. And then we take responsibility for fulfilling that need. Like, we don't become dependent on others. Like if I, giving again that example I gave in the beginning about if I have a need for food, healthy food. All right, let's say Somi Rupa doesn't want to cook for me. Instead of getting angry, I'll say, well, I'll take responsibility. I know how to go to the supermarket. Even here in Sweden. I assume some people speak English, so I could buy something. So, in other words, you take responsibility for your own needs. You don't push that on someone else. If someone else helps, it's fine. And then you can be truly grateful. See, if you're demanding, that's another block. Anyway, I don't have time to go through all the blocks of communication, but let's say if you're demanding something, that interferes with loving exchange. Like if I came here and as I mentioned, Somi Rupa does some cooking for me, and I just demanded it, or had the mood of demand, then there wouldn't be any loving exchange. She would feel that, even if I didn't say it, she would feel that, you have to cook for me. And she would do it as a sense of duty rather than out of devotion. So we don't want people to do things for us out of a sense of duty. At least I don't. Like if someone is serving you prasadam or something like that, and they're just doing it because they have to, then that's a really bad energy, isn't it? You know, I'm doing this for you because I have to. You know, like let's say if a man and woman are married and says, and the man's saying, "Yeah, I'm taking care of you because I have to. It's my duty." Oh my God, what kind of relationship is that? Or the disciple is serving the spiritual master. Because I have to, it's my duty to serve you. Guru Maharaj.
Is duty a bad thing?
Not necessarily, but the duty should be done with this. With the activity of the duty is a good thing, but at the same time, it should be done with the spirit of devotion. Because I don't want to receive any service that's not done with the proper mood. I mean, if someone is, let's say, cooking for me and they're just doing it because they have, just out of a sense of duty. Sense of duty is good, but if it's just without the heart being there, it's just the external body with a feeling of resentment. Oh my God, you know, I'd rather fast.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know. You know, when someone does it, and the consciousness that someone does something not only is communicated to you, but it actually affects the food, for example. The molecular structure of food, there have been tests on that, or water is affected by the person who handles it. There's one study done in Japan, you're probably aware of that. They had water crystals, and someone was thinking, you know, love, and another jug of water was like hate or something like that, and the crystals were just completely different. There was another study that I just read with rice. I don't know if you heard about this study. Someone prepared rice in a rice cooker, just plain rice, and he put it into 3 different hermetically sealed compartments. That means airtight compartments. And the first one, he just thought, love. I don't know how you love rice, but anyway, he was thinking positively. You know, love, 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 like the Beatles song. You know? All you need is love. And then the second one he was just neutral to, and the third one was, you know, angry, like can't get no satisfaction. You know. Can't get no satisfaction. Anyway, so whatever it was, he was thinking differently emotionally. So, all right, so he lets these containers of rice sit for like 2 weeks. Opens up the hate one, you know, can't get no satisfaction one, and there's all sorts of fungus and goo and everything growing on the right. You know, he didn't refrigerate it. The second one, the neutral one, a little less fungus or goo or whatever. It's a study that's been done. And on the first one, you can do it yourself if you don't believe it. It's a really easy study to do. And the first one, the love, was practically as good as the day it was cooked. And that's a controlled experiment right there, you know.
After how many days?
About 2 weeks.
Oh.
They did, kids in Mayapur school did the same thing.
The kid did the same
International school,
experiment.
They did, you know, this love and hate. I don't remember what exactly it was, if they grew some plants or it was just food, but they got the same
Yeah,
result.
plants, you get the same thing.
Like
or
they had
cow-
love and hate, and it
Lo-
was completely 2 opposite things.
Yeah. So-
It's really
So the loving energy that one has is extremely important insofar as food or as relationships. You'll be healthier. I mean, if you have a loving relationship with people and everyone, actually, in the Gita we find, actually in the Gita and also the Upanishad we find statements like, Gita is it, Vidya Vidya Sampane Brahmani Gabihastani Shuni Cheva Swapaki Pandita Samadarshan. The gentle sage, everyone is equal. You know, elephant, dog, outcast. And the Upanishad says, Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atman Yavana Pashati Sarva Bhutesha Chatmanam Tato Gupshate. The one who is Krishna conscious sees everyone equally, doesn't hate anybody. So if we have that attitude, we will be healthier, and the relationships, of course, will be better. I mean, it's an overall recipe for spiritual and material happiness and health. Yeah.
I saw on the internet, it was horrible. It was a cat. I was thinking, I look sometimes cute cats.
Yeah.
And then there was one man, he was petting a cat like this, and then all of a sudden he started to beat the cat. You're stupid, you're. And
Yeah.
this cat, he was like crawling up. And there was another cat next to there. And I was thinking, this man, I want to beat him up like anything. Because this cat had so much pain. One
Yeah.
could see how it was suffering. It was so, and maybe his whole life, because this was his.
So your desire to beat him up was an indication of what need? Compassion.
Compassion to himself.
Compassion for the animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compassion
yeah.
and protection.
Yeah, he had no compassion for the animal. It was
I know, but your need, your
yeah,
feeling,
Yeah, my need
your
was
anger,
compassion. Yeah.
your anger,
Oh, there was
your
anger.
feeling was anger. So anyway, so this is a basic summary. I mean, there's a lot more in the book. I mean, it's just like a summary of what empathic communication is.
But sometimes we're afraid to feel
Yeah.
because we think we're going to be judged
Yes.
by the way we act and the way we feel like that. And we are. In reality,
Yeah.
we are judged for our feelings and the way we act, actually. So,
Yeah. So part of it is being responsible for your own feelings and needs, and being vulnerable enough so when you are judged, I wouldn't say being callous to the judging. That's not really what I'm advocating, but understanding that that person is judging you, meeting your own feelings and needs, and that person is judging you because of some needs that they have. See, that's empathy for others. Like, even if someone, I mean, I don't want to give the example of Hitler, but let's say Hitler. You know, I mean, that's a really extreme example. Hitler had some needs. His strategy was horrible, completely non-productive, but he was functioning because of basic needs that were not fulfilled. Now, I'm not going to try to guess what his needs are. I'm not going to analyze Hitler. But, what he did is horrible, completely horrible, unacceptable, reprehensible, whatever other word you want to use. But what was motivating him was his needs. So when you understand what motivates people, his needs, then you can help people.
but you can't encourage that need.
No, but the need he had, it might have been a need for understanding. I would discourage the strategy, obviously. But the needs are always good. But the strategies can be horrible. I don't know I'm not going to guess at his need, because he's no longer with us, thank God. But, so when people can understand their basic needs, then there can be, and try to understand other people's needs, then you can be empathic with people. And I'll give you a practical example that Marshall Rosenberg gives in his book, which is really an important example. That once upon a time there was a study done to see which method of psychology was better at helping people who had psychological problems, like depression. Let's use depression, for example. And there was these people had severe psychological problems. So they brought in psychologists from different schools. There are Freudian psychologists, Skinnerian psychologists, anyway, Freudian psychologist, everyone's heard of him. Skinnerian is a behavioral psychologist who believed that you could change people by reinforcing their behavior, positive and negative reinforcement. But whatever it is, it's not important to understand that. There's many different schools of psychology. Many different schools. So they brought in like representatives from each of the schools to try to treat the patients, different groups of patients. And they also brought people who are not psychologists in. So the result had nothing to do with what school that they were from in psychology. In fact, what we call the laymen, the people who weren't psychologists, were just as successful as the psychologists were. that'll put all the psychologists out of work. It just depended upon how much empathy they showed for the patients.
Mm.
See?
Yeah.
It really had nothing to do with their school of psychology at all,
Mm.
but it was their empathic approach. How much they cared, they were interested in the person's feelings and needs
Yeah.
as a person.
Something if you to think about, Maharaj, is I was talking to a therapist here in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me 40 to 60% of Swedish people suffer from some kind of depression.
Mm.
Now that's something to think about with
Yeah.
empathy and what's going wrong.
Yeah, they're not having human communication.
Yeah.
These for I mean, there may be different reasons, but their needs are not being fulfilled. And I think the more people just spend their time on the computers all day long, there's going to be more of that problem. 40 to 60%, it's pretty high.
So
And then recently it was discovered that that a lot of this antidepressant medicine causes brain damage. I was just reading a report today about it because I know one of my disciples has to take antidepressant medicine not because she's depressed, but because she has multiple sclerosis, and the SSR, the serotonin uptake suppressors, are given to people who have multiple sclerosis, MS. So I was reading about this report, and it's disastrous to take long-term antidepressants. I mean, it can cause all sorts of other problems, brain damage.
can I just say, I heard many stories in America.
Mm.
Young kids are, an enormous amount of young children are on medicines. For
Yeah.
something or other.
Oh yeah,
In America, huge amount.
huge amount of people are medicines, ADD,
Mm.
and other things like. And I think that another reason is that in America they don't appreciate that, and in many countries they don't appreciate that children have different styles of learning. They try to impose one particular style of learning, and people learn different things differently. Everybody has a different type of brain, and so that's one reason. Another reason is people spend all their time. When I was young, for example, after school we'd all be outside playing. I mean, there's nobody would stay in that. Why would you stay in the house? There's nothing to do in the house. This is actually mostly before TV. Shows how old I was. So, I mean, you had TVs, but it was like a little round thing. You probably remember that too. And, the telephones were like a dial thing. Not even, actually, when I was young, it wasn't even a dial. You call the operator. Some of you may not know about that. So you call the operator, and it would take. You say, "Operator, can I please call this number?" And she'd take about 10 minutes to connect you with the different wires.
The exchange.
The exchange, yeah. So there was there's no texting. And you wrote and read books and all those other things. And even reading books was nice because you use your imagination when you read books. When you just watch films, you don't really use your imagination that much. So much more than our basic needs were fulfilled in those days. I was outside playing ball with everybody, with my friends. And now, because when I go flying an airplane over the cities, got to take airplanes a lot. It's like you don't see people in the streets anymore, except in the middle of the city. You don't see people in the streets. It's just amazing. I was thinking that if I was an alien from outer space, I would think that the living entities all had 4 wheels on this planet. 4 wheels and windshields and everything like that.
Nowadays they start to buy from internet, so they're thinking about closing down the shops everywhere. Nobody's coming to buy.
Yeah. Yes, there's Amazon and places like that. So there's a lack of social interaction because the interaction you get on the internet is really not fulfilling. You need to be with people. We have a need to be with people, and the tactile, touching things, and you really don't get that by being on the computer. And so the young people, yeah, it's causing, in America especially, I'm not so aware of the other countries, but it's a lot of problems with the young people, I would say.
Same in Sweden.
Same in Sweden.
Yeah,
I would say
there's so much depression and anti-depression